What's up, everybody?
Good morning.
Dawn coming in hot from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, got in last night. Got a whole week off though. I was supposed to work this week and they didn't need me, so I got a whole week so I can get my packing and my moving done. Don't have to do it on the weekends, so I'm happy.
That's good. Great.
I'll do some real estate stuff too this week. I like your barn doors.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, this is my third floor,
Nice,
my home office.
nice.
Super old house. We rehabbed this house. We did a 203K loan. So if you don't know what that is, that's, it's a cool product. It allows you to do rehabs. It's not super common now, with all these offers, and
Yeah.
that loan takes like 45 days to close generally, but they give you the money for the rehab. So we gutted this house. This is my office / the fourth bedroom. There's no bed in here.
Right.
And that's our master closet, because there was, old house, small closets. So we built that big closet up here for my wife now that uses it, and every other closet that we have. All of our closets are still completely full, and it's just the two of us here.
Did you do the work yourself or you hired?
No, I did help with some stuff, but we had a general contractor that
Nice.
you need to have a general for 203K is FHA technically. So because of that, like everything with FHA is just more difficult.
Yeah.
So the 203K require, like, it's very hard for you to do your own work.
Right.
And to pay yourself with that money that you put in reserves and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
But for the conventional product, which is called a home style renovation loan, it's basically the same thing, but it's conventional.
Okay.
We couldn't do that because the renovations here were too large. Like, it was too much in renovations. So the purchase price was actually less than the amount of the renovations, and that is an immediate disqualifier for the conventional one. But with the conventional one, I just closed one of them in Philly, and he's doing most of the work himself on that deal, and it was way easier to close. So, if you have clients out there, there's limited inventory right now. A lot of lenders try and push this, but at the end of the day, so many of our clients, I've tried time and time again so hard to try and get people to use these loans, and it's really hard. People are just very scared of issues and stuff in these houses. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
But yeah, if you want to do one, the conventional product is better. If you found a house, you could do literally anything with it. You could just do kitchen and bathrooms with it. If you had a 3% down buyer, they could put 3% down, and the bank will lend them the money to do the rehab on the bathroom and kitchen or whatever they wanted. You can basically do anything except put in a pool.
Okay.
You could put a second story on a house if you wanted to, as long as it appraises for the after repair value for that finished product value. You can do whatever you want.
Cool. That's good to know. Thanks. Is Colin on?
I was hoping he would get on. He just had a listing, so I wanted to.
Yeah, I just saw it. I saw it this morning on Zillow.
He's got a couple offers, but I wanted to, remind everybody, please. He's very, very willing to let you share it, advertise it however you want.
Okay.
So use that to your advantage. I have seen a bunch of you guys put, including myself, post on whether your story or your page or whatever, our new listing. I love seeing that. It just adds a lot of sense of validation, and makes it look like you're doing something, even if it wasn't. It's not your listing. I'm going to say that again. So I'll wait. Hopefully he'll get on. I was just texting him because he got another offer, so I think he's going to be on.
Awesome. He's having an open house tomorrow.
He is, yeah. Open house. I think he has two. Maybe he's doing one today, so maybe he won't be on. I don't know. Let me see. So this is just like a quick reminder for a fast way to search. in Bright. Once you log in, you can type anything in here and hit enter. If you're on this orange speed bar here, if you're not doing this, it's such an easy way to do a search. If you type in the property address, 6 Willow Cedar, his is 6 Willow Cedar Way, but for whatever reason, you just can't put that last part of the address in the search bar. If you do, it'll turn up no results, but just hit enter and it'll show you, here it is. So Bright is like, if you don't know how to do this, you literally are going in search, residential sale,
Right.
you have to, but if you type in here just 6 Willow Cedar and hit enter, it'll show you all of the history for anywhere in Bright of that address. So there's just happens to be one. So this is obviously his listing, and his open house is just tomorrow. So just a quick tip.
Thank you.
And you'll see if I type in like 123 Main Street, there's a 239 because it's searching the entire MLS for any 123 Main Street in Baltimore, Richland, Virginia, like any, so you just have to, if you have a very common address, it's almost like doing a name search on a John Smith. You're going to have more results, but if you look through these, you'll find the one that you're looking for. You can just click on status and there's your active one. This is when I have somebody call me, we all have these calls. I'm not going to pretend like they don't happen. We all have people call us and ask us, oh yeah, you know what? I saw one over on Green Street in Cherry Hill. You know what I'm talking about, right? Oh yeah. 123 Green Street, Cherry. Like I'm immediately typing it in here and looking for the listing. This is the fastest way to get to it, so I can have it up in front of me when I'm talking to somebody.
Can you just put Green Street in, or green, if you don't know the number?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So you have to have the address, the actual number.
Yeah, you have to have at least the address. If you, yeah, no, I typed in green and here we go, 5,000 plus listings.
That wouldn't be too quick.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know if Colin's getting on or not, but that's the first thing I wanted to talk about is his listing. For those of you who don't know, when an agent gets a listing, right, whether you're in coaching or not, if I get a listing, I send out a little flyer. You are so welcome to go, and I encourage you, go into either use the flyer that I created and emailed to you and post it on your Facebook business page or your story as our new listing. That's going to be just a constant reminder, because if you're not selling, you're not actively having 5 listings and a few closings a month, it's hard to look like you're actually out working, even though you are. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. Again, I emailed the listing from Colin. He actually reached out to me, and I was going to do it anyway, but he actually said, hey, make sure everybody knows they can share and advertise my listing. So if you wanted to, you could take that graphic and you could run a Facebook ad. Just look up Marty Miller's Facebook ad video. If you want to try and get some buyer leads around his listing in Blackwood, he's having an open house tomorrow. I mean, it's, you can do that on Colin's listing, or if you just look at new listings from our market center. This is why it benefits to come to the trainings and become friends with the other agents and know which agents are good for you to, have that relationship where you can, that you can go and advertise their listings as our new listing. So
Jimmy, so if somebody reaches out to us on that ad, like a potential buyer, then that would be like our buyer?
Yep. Yeah. If you ran an ad, I know that Colin's cool, with that. I certainly would be as well. If you paid for a Facebook ad and you generated a buyer and that buyer bought Colin's listing, he's going to be happy because he sold the listing.
Yeah, I get it.
And so or if they buy somewhere else, it's unlikely that they're going to actually buy that listing. It's more likely that they're just beginning their search.
Right.
And you establish a relationship with them, get them with a lender, get them approved, and they buy something 6 months from now.
So we don't have to refer them to Colin. They're kind of like buyers that all right. And even if we just share the ad and we're not an ad, we're not paying for it, we're just sharing what you share.
Yeah, of course.
If Colin says it's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, technically, all listings with Keller Williams Morristown are the broker's listings, not ours. Even though where we are at, it really feels like there are listings, because if you were to leave tomorrow, you can take them with you. You can do essentially what you want with your listings. At the end of the day, the company owns them, so technically, the law would say you can advertise it without his permission because it's in the same brokerage as you.
I see. Okay. All right. Thanks.
But I just am on the shoot it, text, hey, do you mind? It would be awkward for them to get a call like, hey, I saw your ad, and they're like, I didn't advertise it. So
yeah, okay, thank you.
So I was hoping also Brittany Gallagher. Let me get a good one. Whose iPhone? Somebody was in here as iPhone. I don't know if you're still in here or not.
That was me. I switched my laptop.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, I'm just, let's see. Okay, she said she'll be on in a few, so we'll talk about her buyer in a second. So Zach, since you just talked, you said you had some questions.
Yeah, so the one lead that I got it was for a rental, and it was just kind of like a difficult situation to begin with. So the guy was selling his mother's house in New York and was going to use the proceeds, about 75,000 of it, to get an apartment in New Jersey. And so he has a Rottweiler, which is already like a highly banned breed, like for a lot of apartments. So that cut it down. He only made $2,000 a week, and he needed a driveway and a fenced-in yard. But he was willing to pay like 6 to 12 months, like upfront cash. But then he came back. He was like, "Oh, we're gonna be closing like a week or two," and then he was like, "Oh, actually, like they're having problems with the mortgage, so it might be more like June."
Yeah.
And then he came back and he was like, "Well, now my agent and my lawyer are saying it should be like they're just waiting for the title company now." And I was like, "Well, like, listen, like, you have 75 grand in cash. Like, would you be looking to buy a house?" He's like, "I can't." He's like, his credit score is like a 530. So it's kind of difficult. Like, I'm talking to one guy from Keller Williams actually about a property in Cinnaminson, but like,
About him paying for rent for the entirety of the lease or something like that.
yeah, like the year up front. And it's just kind of difficult. Like, I've messaged like 4 other properties. I've only gotten 1 response.
So let's talk about that paying the rent up front, because we had people, if I had somebody who called me and asked me and said, "Hey, I have bad credit, but I'm willing to pay the entire year up front," I would immediately end the conversation. I've just never experienced a situation where that works out or where there's not something horrid going on. You're still going to have a background and criminal check and eviction and credit check. It's not like they're going to get away with that just because they're going to pay all of the rent up front. Second, in New Jersey, you're actually not allowed to pay all of your rent up front. A landlord is not allowed to take more than 1.5 months rent security deposit at any time. You actually can't just pay the, yeah.
The one guy I messaged said he's not allowed to ask for rent up front, but he's allowed to accept it. So I don't know if like how
there are ways around it, Zach. Like, we could draw up a lease for 12 months where the rent for the first month is 24,000 and all the other months are $0. Is that really a situation that, like, as a landlord, that I'm going to want to be in? No. And I'm part of a bunch of investment groups, and every once in a while somebody will be like, "Hey, I had this person, they're really nice, but they said they have bad credit, but they're willing to pay all of the rent up front." And you get so many landlords that come back and are like, "I got bit by that. It doesn't work like that. They'll sue you. They won't pay. They'll try and get the money back," and all these different things. And even if the situation is legitimate, it's just about CYA. And then the next thing I'm going to say is Rottweilers are the reason why everybody's immediately saying no to Rottweilers is because a landlord's insurance on the property will not cover it with a Rottweiler as a dog there. So if that dog were to bite somebody or even hurt the tenant, the landlord could be on the hook for it.
Yeah, because me and my fiance have a pit bull, and
Same deal.
to find a place to rent, it's like impossible. And we asked the one place, and they were like, "Oh, it's our insurance." Like, they just don't allow it.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So it's a crappy situation, but my advice to you would be to tell him his best bet, which is the honest truth, is to go on Zillow. We've talked about this before. Go on Zillow, go on apartments.com, reach out to the landlord directly, explain the situation, see if they're willing to work with the tenant. But I wouldn't get yourself involved in that, especially paying the 6 or 12 months rent up front. It's just not a good idea.
All right.
I think if we had an attorney on here, they would be saying absolutely not.
All right.
And the only other way that I could imagine that working out is if they put that money in a third-party escrow account, or like if you had the tenant put the rent in an escrow account and that escrow account is just for the rent. But end of the day, I just think that's a big ask.
Thank you.
Jimmy, what if it was like a rent to own situation?
So that's okay. So yeah, let's
Different.
explore that. Definitely different. I mean, that still a landlord in the state of New Jersey may only hold 1.5 months rent back for security deposit. So, if a landlord's willing to do a rent to own, I've done them. And generally this is actually, Zach, now that I think about this, I had a rent to own. That was this situation. There was no pit bull involved, but I had a buyer who bought a place in Willingboro. Her sister, and I still talk with her, but she referred me her sister, who also wanted to move to Willingboro. They had sold their place in Queens for like a ton of money because the market up there was like, it was really exploding, kind of like what happened in Philly and whatever. Their neighborhood blew up overnight. So a developer came in, gave them like $600,000 and 3 siblings were getting it, something like that. So she still needed to get a mortgage for this place, and she had bad credit, just like your person, but she had a bunch of cash in an account. So what we did was we found her a place in Willingboro to do a rent to own. And what she did was she put like $75,000 in escrow. And she put that money in escrow because that was her down payment and closing costs. So all of that was on the line if she didn't do what she needed to do to fix her credit to buy the house in 3 months. So month 1, credits rechecked by the lender, it went up. Month 2, it went up again. Month 3, she was good to go, and we ended up closing on the house, and it worked out really well. That is something that could be an option for your buyer. That was like 2016, if I remember correctly. And the market was, there was maybe, we paid full price, and that was enough for us to get that. It's going to be harder for you to find something that works for that in this market.
Yeah.
But it's a definite conversation that I would have with him if you don't want to lose him.
So the money was the down payment and what, Jimmy? The escrow?
She put in the down payment and closing costs in escrow. So I think the
it.
purchase price was like 160 and she was putting like 75,000 down. That's what she had to do to get a mortgage on it.
Okay.
So she put it in escrow. So if she were to breach contract, it's unlikely she would have lost all of that, but she had a lot on the line and she couldn't spend it because it was in escrow.
Okay, got you.
So,
and the 3-month period was just something you put in the offer, or the
yeah,
contract?
it was just
she had to get a mortgage for 3 months.
So for a rent to own situation, we had a full blown lease signed. It was a month-to-month lease, I think, or it was like a 90-day lease that goes to month after that. The rent was like, here's why I can benefit the owner, Zach, because when we did the market rent for that place was like maybe $1,600 a month, and she paid $2,500 a month. So she paid a lot in rent, with the idea being she doesn't want to rent. She wants to buy it. Her mortgage payment was going to be like $1,200, but she had the cash and was able to do it. So she paid a lot of rent upfront to incentivize the owner. I mean, this is what we came up with, to incentivize the owner to work with her and give her a shot. If she ended up not buying the place, the landlord would have had to evict her, just like he would have had to evict any other tenant.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens to that money that was in escrow?
Goes towards her closing costs and down payment at
No,
closing.
I'm saying if it doesn't close.
The landlord, at that point, we're talking about seller and buyer, her being the buyer or your person being the buyer, and then the seller. So the seller would need to hire an attorney and go after the buyer for the escrow. And the attorney would, or the seller would probably get a very substantial portion of that. If not half or more, potentially all of it is on the line. So in New Jersey, there's no real defined amount where, like, if this deal falls apart, I'll give you this example. If you put 5,000 in escrow, a lot of people, this is like good to understand. A lot of people think that if you have 5,000 in escrow, that's all that's on the line. If the buyer, husband and wife, decide they want to divorce and they don't want to buy the house anymore, that's a breach of contract. They might think, whatever, I'll just let my 5,000 go. I don't care. Well, in the state of New Jersey, the seller has a right to sue the buyer for damages. So the seller can go after the buyer for holding costs, and the biggest thing is, if they were under contract for $230 with these people and they breached and left, and then they sold it for $200 to somebody else, they could sue the buyer for the $30,000 difference.
Oh, wow. All right.
So in Pennsylvania, there's a little checkbox that says, one sentence, this entire deal is limited to escrow. to what's an escrow.
Oh, I
But
see.
in New Jersey, it's not like that.
Got
So
you.
you have to be careful with that. People think like, oh, I'll put 2,000 out. Now, what are the chances of that happening? Extraordinarily low. But it's a possibility, and that's the law. So just, about being safe. So yeah, so they could do that. I would have that conversation with him. It might be like the only option where you'd be able to potentially help him. It's still going to create a situation where he's got a Rottweiler and a rental. So you're going to have to find a landlord that doesn't know his insurance isn't going to cover that or doesn't care.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
It might be a stupid question. At what point does that become like effective? Like after attorney review, if they back out of the contract? Like
Breach would be yes, after attorney review.
okay. But
If
is
they
there,
have an
like,
attorney,
is there like certain things like if they backed out for certain reasons they would get
so basically,
versus just escrow, or because now I'm freaking out because I thought it was just the escrow too.
I know it's okay.
like-
It's all right.
But
I've
might
had
be what's going on now.
it's I don't want to scare you with that story, especially in this market. That's like very unlikely they're going to end up taking a $50,000 loss after your people back out. It's if they breach, it's if the buyer breaches a contract. So you'd have to say, why do you want to terminate? Listen to their reason for why they want to terminate. And if that reason isn't allowable per the contract, then that's considered a breach. So examples would be purposefully lying on your mortgage application, purposefully, knowingly lying for, intentionally sabotaging your job, because the mortgage company likely is going to call the employer and be like, is so-and-so employed there? If the person to pick up the phone would have been like, oh no, they quit, that could be considered a breach. I don't know. It's rare. It's definitely rare. More common is people get cold feet, or people get too emotional and they get in over their head, or you miss a deadline. Like let's say that you had your inspection period 14 days and on day 17 you sent over 30,000 worth of repairs. At that point, if the buyer wants to back out, they can't.
They can't.
Right. If they try to back out, it would be a breach of contract.
Right.
So
Okay. But what if
if
it was
this-
like contingent upon like getting the mortgage and then they weren't?
Yeah, so that's going to lower your risk substantially, because all the lender needs to do is provide a credit denial letter, which we've talked about, like Ryan Goldberg is the lender in your case. That's something that they can do. And
Okay.
he's not going to sabotage you or your client or his client, but
And as long as you're like upfront about that, like, how I was like upfront about it with the listing agent, like, look, this is what's going on and stuff.
yeah. So
Hopefully
so
it goes
let's-
through, but I'm worried.
all right, well, so Zach, does that hopefully helps you for
Yeah, that
next
helps a
steps for
ton.
okay. And Tawana, you feel like that makes some sense too? I don't know if you're still here or not. So
Yeah, I'm
Brittany-
here. I hear you. I'm getting ready to go to open house, so I'm kind
all
of.
good. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure you're good on that, because I was gonna go to the next topic.
So
Yeah.
Jimmy, so with Brittany's thing, what she was saying, if it says contingent on getting a mortgage and the mortgage letter says, no, they don't have credit, they can't get the mortgage, that's not breach. That's just,
Correct.
it ends because they
Correct.
can't get a mortgage.
In a hypothetical case, somebody has student loans they defaulted on 8 years ago, 9 years ago. They have a 800 credit score when they pull their credit. However, once you go under contract and they do a more thorough investigation of the person's credit history, timeliness of payments, and they do what's called, I think it's like a caviar search or something, and the title company pulls the title on the buyer. When the buyer provides their social security information, the title company is pulling title. They're going to see that debt, that outstanding debt, because student loans don't go away. So the question is whether or not in certain scenarios that should have been disclosed up front, or like, how do you prove that the buyer in that case knew that he still had that debt hanging over his head, and
Yeah.
whether or not that should have been disclosed? Because it's likely the buyer could have gone to the car dealership and bought a new car with a low rate, or could have gotten a personal loan with a great rate, because they're not going to investigate deep enough to see that student loan is still hanging over your head.
Right. So
That
that
makes
could be considered a breach if they lied about it.
If they lied about it, then you can prove they lied about it.
Okay. Otherwise, it's just, they don't get a mortgage.
Otherwise, they get a
over.
credit denial, yes, and they'd be left out of the deal and they'd get their deposit back.
Okay.
An example of where I'll give one example that John Rothamel taught in an attorney class that has stuck with me about what considers a breach that you might not think would be a breach. It's impossible to do this now because of the market, but what John Rothamel said was, if a buyer is putting 5% down and the property appraises low, and the buyer says, I'm not willing to put any additional funds up, okay? But the buyer has 50 grand in a savings account. And the seller says, I'm not willing to reduce the price. And the seller says, does the buyer have the funds to cover this? If the buyer has the funds to cover the low appraisal and is not willing to put those funds up, the bank technically doesn't need to issue a credit denial. The buyer would still qualify to buy this home and has the ability and the funds to put extra money up and can still qualify for it. So in this case, the buyer could be forced to put extra money out of savings that they weren't planning on because the bank wouldn't be able to issue a credit denial because they still have enough money to cover the low appraisal.
But why would that be impossible now, Jimmy? Because we see that situation a lot. where
Because
they're under-
because the solution that John Rothamel said was to use the FHA addendum on every single deal. And the FHA addendum is that one-page addendum that's required on FHA deals that says the property must appraise for the contract sales price. And if it appraises any lower, no matter what, the buyer can get out of it if they need to, if they want to.
So you're telling us we should use that?
So I'm saying that in an ideal world, that language would be attached with every single deal you do. But in this market, I know for a fact that ain't happening. There's no way you're going to be able to add some addendum saying that, oh, if it must appraise and if it appraises any lower, the buyer has a right to turn. You're going to confuse a listing agent. It's too much.
So you're just saying the offer might not get accepted, but I mean, you could still say it, or you could say, we'll pay 10,000 if it's.
Yes,
under
yeah,
appraisal.
I always recommend that. I mean, you tell me, can you make an offer right now and not address the appraisal or inspection?
No.
You can't. You have to address it in your offer or they're not going to consider you.
But you couldn't say, if it appraises under, we're walking away.
You can, as long as you negotiate what that balance would be, or you could have that in the agreement. I mean, that's what you just said is basically the paragraph on the FHA addendum.
Okay.
So it's a lot to think about. Do these things end up in front of a judge? And, not usually. The seller doesn't want to usually go through all of that anyway. If the, property appraises low, generally your lender is going to issue a credit denial, whether or not it's warranted. So it's just, if I haven't had anybody call me and be like, it appraised really low. So when that happens, we'll have this conversation. But I wouldn't say it's something to worry about on a day-to-day basis, but I just want you to keep in mind, like, these are the things that you need to, this is why going to the classes is important and staying on top of the education for these things.
Because we had an offer that didn't go through. And when I asked the guy, one of the reasons was they said, well, they were going to pay a certain amount. If it under appraised, they were going to cover it. That was in their offer. So.
That's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. That's
Okay.
fine. I'm just saying, that's fine.
Okay.
You
Jim,
can
do
and
you
should
think it's
continue.
up to a certain amount, like if it doesn't appraise, so we'll pay up to,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, Maria. Yeah. So that's fine. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's totally fine. I'm basically talking about standard contract language without doing this appraisal waiver BS stuff.
Okay.
So I did want to talk about Brittany, that your buyer, because this market's insane. Even though you're unhappy with the way things are going, Brittany's still, yeah, but you still, at the end of the day, were able to get a property under contract with all of this nonsense that's going on.
Yeah. And now I'm holding
So
my breath until closing.
Yeah, I know. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx it for you, but the reason I'm saying this is because we hear and we see and we talk about the 30,000 over ask properties and the 29 offer properties. But in this case, how many offers were there on this place that they are buying?
We were the only offer.
And what are they paying? Full price?
Yeah. I mean,
Full price?
I probably could have put in an offer lower. Yeah, you're right. This is good to tell everybody. So we went and saw, sorry.
Go
we went and saw a place. I'm representing my cousins actually, and they liked it. They wanted to put an offer in, and they just had it. It was up for like 4 days, I think, at that point, and it was like 2 or 3 days after the open house that they had, and I just kind of called the listing agent to talk to him, and I'm like, "How's it going?" Like, because they're a FHA buyer, so I wanted to give them like the best deal going forward. And he's a new listing agent. This is his first listing, so he kind of stupidly told me that there was no offers yet. So I pretty much just went in asking price, and I've been all their like offers previously. I was like trying to make it better because they are FHA. So I was saying things like, oh, they'll pay X amount if it appraises low, like all that different stuff. But then he had 2 showings scheduled. I want to say it was that Thursday, and we put in an offer Tuesday, and Jimmy was very on top of me about saying, get those contracts Wednesday night and get them signed and get the showings canceled, basically. So and I was kind of nervous being that aggressive, being a new agent, but it ended up working out for the better. So
Yeah, that was it. It's hard. It's not every deal. You're not going to hear about that. The listing agent's not going to post about this listing, probably. Well, he might because it's his first, and Brittany's not going to be like, oh, this crazy story, because it really wasn't. It was it's a crazy story because of like other stuff with the mortgage, but at the end of the day, she's got a buyer that's FHA that's paying full price in a market and there was 1 offer and then got contracts signed in a market where that's very challenging. So just a reminder, while difficult does not mean impossible, and to absolutely do not feel bad about bothering these agents. I wish Ashley was on here because she's like, highest and best was due yesterday at 2 and I haven't heard anything. I'm like, yesterday may as well have been 2018. Everybody look at us in this, everybody's got their phone and Apple Watch and everything. The only reason somebody's not getting back to you is because they're trying to get another offer, or there's more showings that they're trying to let have, or somebody else is in their ear being more aggressive. So I get annoyed by it too when I have listings, but I get it. And I totally get it. You've got to be that agent, or you're going to end up waiting and there's going to be 3 more showings and 2 more offers, and you're going to end up being in the bottom of the barrel. So, and well, I guess that's really it, but
Can I ask
you're not the only one.
on that,
Yeah.
on a listing? So I went to see one the week before. It was 40 Blanchard in Marlton in Cambridge Estates off of 70, and total, renovation needs to be done to it. So the listing agent that had in the agent's comments, she was not going to accept any offers until May 11th, and that the seller would make a decision May 12th. So I respected that and waited till the 11th at like midnight. I started to put the offer in. When I went to go back and look at the listing, she changed it to May the 8th, and that they were going to make a decision on the 9th. How is that ethical?
Yeah, that's definitely not.
So by the time I got to her, she had 50 offers. It was going for 185. She had 50 offers, well over 200,000. I said to her, I respected your agent comments and I never put my offer in. Now, where am I?
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I could still get it in. It's not like I can't, but I'm not going to be seen at this point. Like, I'm just another one now. So, it's frustrating because I probably should have overrid her in my mind. I'm thinking that I should have just sent it. You know what she said to me? I don't want my emails flooded right now. Wow. Wow.
I could probably take a couple of guesses on you.
You know who it is?
Maybe.
That's totally unethical.
It is totally unethical. And I don't want to say that these are like good stories to tell your buyers and your clients, but this is why your clients should use you, and not an experienced agent or an agent that's doing a lot of business isn't always the right agent for them.
Right.
Because could you imagine now, and this sounds like a distress sale, maybe a bank sale, so it's not like she's, I don't know. But could you imagine if my seller knew that I was doing that? Like, it's just not.
Yeah, it's actually not. They still have it. It was an elderly couple, and it's like really the children that have it now. And she even wrote some strange comments in there, like, don't be going in unless it's your time. Cause I had someone try to sneak in when I was in there and I said, I'm the 10 to 10:30. I locked that door. I'm like, you're on your own after this, because another one tried coming in too. And she said, you're being watched on the agent comments. I was like,
Jesus.
thank God I followed it all by the law. Cause I was like, oh,
Ugh. Yeah, so that's the one time when there's a benefit of a Supra. So I had a listing, some of you might remember this, most of you are joined after this happened, but I had a listing in Northfield that was the seller's father passed away and he delayed and delayed. It was very emotional for him selling this place. And there was a tenant living there. And he had me go and look at the house, come up with the price and list it. And I called him and I was like, there's a lot of cool stuff in here. There was like a lot of military stuff. And so I called my father-in-law, he went over and like, there was metals and stuff. Like my father-in-law took a lot of that stuff, but the seller told me, I don't want anything there. I don't care. I don't want it. Just leave it. The buyer can get rid of it or whatever. So what happens? I list it. We had 30 showings and it's on a lockbox and
Oh, got stolen?
stuff got ransacked. Everything got thrown up. Somebody went up and like put a bar between the back door and the garage door. Somebody took the key out of the lockbox and took the lockbox off and threw it in the house so nobody else could get in there. I was embarrassed to be a realtor. I was embarrassed. I couldn't even believe that anything like that happened. That was just like a couple months ago. And so I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I had my father-in-law like go over there and get go and get the lockbox. And, the seller was very upset by that. And it just sucks because I tried to be upfront with him and say, this is a possibility because these people this is how they are. But my guess is that somebody gave the lockbox code to somebody else, an agent who didn't want to go to the show and gave the lockbox code to a contractor or something like that. And, this is what happens. So I understand those remarks, Maria, that agent put in there, but it's just, this is why. I mean, I could kind of almost, I'm glad that you were very particular about you're not allowed in here and putting the key back in and locking up when you left. So this kind of stuff is happening in this market and it's just very frustrating. And Supra can prevent that. Why? Because you can't let a contractor go and use your Supra. You literally need your cell phone. So unless I had the contractor come to my office and get my phone and go to the house then, and don't you think even if I did that, I'd probably be a little bit more cautious about who I let in there. So it's like part of me wants to get Supras just for these vacant listings, but it's a mess.
So really just, okay, that's too bad.
So, but in your case, Maria, to change the remarks in the listing later is definitely not right. And I don't ever listen to don't make an offer until this date. I'll make it right away and then I'll just make it again on that date. I'll just make it again until, and I'll, you know what I mean? Like, I know it's not due till May 8th, till May 11th. I know you're not reviewing them till May 11th. By the way, state of New Jersey is like, you got to present the offer within 24 hours to your seller. That's the law. But so many agents like to put in there.
Catty she was. Sorry,
Yeah.
I will say it was a she. So, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't know how people are like that. It's like until we start to be able to read more, it's like, I mean, I can only imagine. So if that's how it's played out, but anyway, it's done. It is what it is.
You start to see a lot of agents who are like that. So anybody else want to ask any questions at this point or comment on any of this stuff?
I'm back to appraisals, Jimmy, because quick question for you. I'm worried about this place I'm have under contract as far as it being possibly appraised below what we agreed to. However, there's a house across the street that just went up on the market. It's 10K above its comparable house. It's 10K. It's asking prices 10K above what we've agreed to. So I presume the appraiser is going to come in and hopefully see that, and we'll be all right. The bank came up with one of these great Zillow appraisals saying, well, it's 8,000, it appraises 8,000 less than what you've offered. I don't know. Zillow to me is all over the place with these appraisals. I mean, sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're not. So
explain for more what you mean by the bank using Zillow.
My buyer, she's been approved for the mortgage. And then she says, well, it all we have to get the appraisal for the place, and the bank actually looked up on Zillow, the property. It's like, oh, well, it's $8,000 less than what your agreed upon price is. And she says, well, we'll have to see what our appraiser says. I'm like, oh, great. But then you look around the neighborhood there, most of the stuff is going right around the price that we agreed to.
You're talking about the Zestimate on Zillow?
Yeah,
what
and
we're
I
talking
don't know,
about?
they're all over
Yeah,
the
you s-
place, those.
Yeah, they are, but your buyer is concerned about this estimate.
Yeah, and I
Not
said,
the
don't
bank.
worry about that
You
yet
said the
until we
bank.
get the actual appraisal.
The bank is worried about this estimate? Or the
Yes.
buyer? The bank
That's
emailed, who is the bank?
Citizens Bank. And I said to my buyer, I said, hey, don't worry about that yet. I said, everything's going for about the price that we offer.
I've certainly never heard a bank say, I'm worried about this estimate.
I don't know. I have no idea. I heard this yesterday. I said to, Patty, hey, don't worry yet. Don't worry. I think we're going to be fine with this. We're talking $8,000.
So I love, my favorite response to the Zestimate thing is just a very polite, who from Zillow went out to the house and saw it?
That's my fault with it too. I mean, they haven't seen the house. I mean, when I look up my own house, it doesn't even, in Zillow, it doesn't even show I have a bathroom in my house. I looked it up yesterday. I
So
was like,
yeah,
what the heck?
right.
So they're all over the place. I think so.
So
Okay.
for your appraisal, so you have the buyer. So typically the listing agent shows up for the appraisal and meets the appraiser in person.
So
And the listing agent,
okay.
typically,
Okay.
and typically the listing agent's going to go prepared with a little folder of their comps. This is the best practice, I would say. And if you ever have questions about appraisal, you should reach out to Laurel Witz in the office. If you don't know Laurel,
No, I don't. Yeah.
she drives a convertible Camaro. She's very cool and she knows a lot about appraisals.
Okay.
So Laurel has an office upstairs, and anyway.
Oh, yes, I did meet Laurel. Yes. Okay.
Probably did. She's there all the time. So appraisals, best practice if you have a
I know
listing when you
Laurel.
Hi,
Yeah.
Colin.
Just wanted to throw that in.
So you said go talk to her.
So no, I wouldn't say to talk to her. I'm just saying if you ever really wanted to pick somebody's, I'm not an appraiser, nor have I ever been one. What I'm telling you is just from my experience, but I think that Laurel was an appraiser or something. I don't know. She's got a ton of knowledge in that realm. What I'm going to say is best practice for when you meet an appraiser is they are super busy. They don't want to spend time there. And the last thing that they want is for you to drag them down with a 30-minute conversation. So usually a listing agent will just prepare a little folder like, I don't want to bother you. Here are the comparable sales we used. And here's a list of upgrades on this house. This should justify the value here. If you have any questions, let me know. That's it.
So it's normally the listing side.
Normally it's a listing.
Meets.
Normally. That's why I keep normally. There's nothing wrong if you feel like, it's, you want to attend the appraisal. In theory, you could do that.
But normally it's them. Okay.
Normally it's them. The appraiser is supposed to be an independent third party,
right.
that is not being swayed by, you are allowed to meet the appraisal. You are not allowed to say, we need it to appraise at X, or, oh, my buyer really needs it to appraise for Y. But you are allowed to give them data. They should, a good appraiser will appreciate that and will not be annoyed that you did that. At a minimum, when you see the appraiser, so you might, as the buyer's agent, you might not even see that the appraisal is scheduled because they're going to schedule it through showing time or through the listing agent. So you might just want to send a note to the listing agent or the listing team and say, can you let me know when appraisal is? I'd like to meet the appraiser, or I'd like to email the appraiser. And you can email the appraiser. I can send you, I'll put a note in here and I'll just email it to everybody. I just emailed an appraiser for my listing that I have in Philly. I just was like, I just don't feel like I'm doing my job. And it appraised. If I don't at least just like send you the comps we used and give you a little bit of data about the property. And she was very appreciative of it.
Okay.
Okay, but you're the listing agent, right, Jimmy? She's coming from the buyer side. So you're saying
Yes.
even the buyer can say they want to meet with their appraisal or be there for the appraisal? It's not usual, but they can? Okay.
It's not usual, but you can.
And if the the buyer's bank wants to approach me to let the appraiser in and stuff, can I sort of say, no, I don't feel comfortable with that?
No, you can just coordinate it with the listing agent and just get them in there. It's Naoji Marucci that you're working with. So I doubt that they have anybody meet the appraiser. I'm sure that they just give them the lockbox code. I highly doubt that anybody from their
It's a
team is gonna
Supra.
go meet them.
It's a Supra on that.
Okay, so
one of us
I
is-
think appraisers can use Supra. I'm not positive.
Maybe. Okay.
Inspectors cannot. They actually used to be able to use Supra, and now they took that away from them. I don't know. So.
All right.
So and then yeah, again, just justify your comps and listen. It's such a hard thing to like pinpoint exactly where appraise. This is such an issue right now in this industry. But what I can tell you is, if it makes you or your buyer feel better, Jenna just had a deal that she heard that deal that she closed sold for 252. That was 27,000 over ask in an area in Magnolia where there weren't any comps, and it appraised.
Okay.
So,
All right.
the only thing that is astoundingly odd to me is that somebody from Citizens Bank
Yeah.
said, I'm worried about this estimate.
This is what my buyer said. This
Yeah,
is all I
maybe
can tell you. You
Maybe
know?
she misunderstood.
Maybe.
what?
Yeah.
Maybe she
Maybe.
misunderstood or something.
She might have, knowing this gal, she may very well have. So I'm like, Anyway, okay, thanks.
I just like, and this all, I do it because I don't know if it helps or not, but if it appraises low, I can at least say to my seller, like, oh, I tried.
Right.
Because if it appraises low, and then they're going to tell their friends, and they're like, oh, well, my agent was there for the appraisal. Was yours there? No, my agent wasn't there. That's why it appraised low. I'm like, no, it appraised low because it appraised low, not because I was there or not.
Jimmy?
Yeah.
The bank picks the appraisal?
The bank hires the appraiser from a third party company. They don't ever know the person's name. Now they do, because it's just like us. There's notorious appraisers in our area that you have no control over whether they get selected. It's just who the bank hires, whatever company they use.
Okay.
And then that appraiser will just get the order from their company.
Okay. So what about like if my house, if an investor ends up buying it and they're gonna buy cash or something and there's no mortgage, and do they get an appraiser?
No,
No, that's only
there's
if it's
no
our
appraisal.
mortgage?
That's why cash is king.
Okay, cash is king. Okay, but only
No
the banks
appraisal.
have to have one if there's a bank involved.
Yes, and again, you can never waive an appraisal, but you can say, I'll cover the difference up to infinity
Right.
if it
Okay.
comes in low.
Thank you.
So Colin, I talked a little bit about your listing and told everybody to share it, but if you wanted to give any update or tell anybody anything about it, you're welcome to do that. I don't know if you're still listening. Let me see. Anything else? Colin, you look like you're going to talk now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the listing. Honestly, it's been a whirlwind. So we had a bunch of showings today, and I got an offer that I forwarded you, Jimmy. So if anything, I'm just curious, what's the best way to present it to them? Just send it to them, or should I sit there and go through it?
Yeah,
piece
so
by
this
piece?
is a great talking point. So when you have a listing and you get a bunch of offers, you're expecting multiple offers. Just like I do with everything, you've probably, you've already noticed this about me. I label everything the same way. So when you get an offer, I forward it to the seller, but before I send it, I rename the subject first offer 6 Willow Cedar Way. And then I do bullet points: 252 purchase price, $6,000 escrow, $20,000 deposit, waiving inspection, waiving appraisal. And I do that for every deal. So later when we have 8 offers, it's way easier for me mentally to go back and look at them. I can, number one, I can search for them quickly. I can remember which offer came in when, and the bullet points cover the offer, because I'm looking at your email and this guy, can I show this email?
Yes.
Nothing wrong with the way that this guy put together his offer. Just do the desktop. But I just shared this. So, it's like, obviously. So this is the email. It literally, he said, hi, Colin, attaches our client's offer and supporting documents. So nothing wrong with this. He attached all these documents here. But this is hard. If you forwarded this to a seller and expected them to go through the contract and look for section 16, what they're doing regarding the inspections is an impossibility.
Yes.
So I would just forward this so they have it and say, and I can, first I just take this out and do first offer, and then you're going to do offer details. And then just start with the purchase price and work your way down. That's my advice. And then say, we'll discuss this later or whatever.
Well, I guess my next question is, I don't even know what I'm looking at. You know what I'm saying? So like, I would go off the bullet points because that's how I'm learning. So even when I went through that, I was like, this is Egyptian to me. So it's like, how do we get how do I get from being a new agent and reading those hieroglyphics and then explaining it to
Well, I can open,
my,
yeah, so I don't want to put yourself in a position where this is going to go on YouTube. I don't know, like, what are the chances that somebody, I don't want to start opening up and going into your offer in the case that it's going to end up being
yeah, no,
detrimental
we
to
could talk
yourself.
about it offline, but that's why I forwarded it, just because
Yeah, that's,
I wasn't sure if I
do
should
that.
forward it and then go through it
Maybe
with them.
we'll, mhm. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah,
so you know what I'm
should,
thinking.
you should. Okay, yep. So we can definitely talk about this.
So
We'll get
every
to that
offer, as
last
soon
one.
as it comes in, you forward it.
I
Within
do it
24 hours.
immediately. As soon as it
24
comes
hours,
in,
each one. Yeah.
I open up the contract of sale. I'm just going to look at the terms. I'm just going to go through it page by page. Say the purchase price. What does it say for the deposit? What does it say for the mortgage terms? You know, is it FHA? Is it conventional? All that stuff's in the contract, and I'll just make bullet points for it. And the settlement date, all that stuff is in here. Whether it's contingent, you know.
Cool. Thank you.
So we can look at this together after. All right. Anything else? Anybody else?
So you don't have to show us on the addendum, but do you always have to do that form in DocuSign, the offer, or you just?
When you make it, so this
Yeah.
agent for Collins listing, he's from it. I'm just going to make assumptions here. He's got a Philly address for his brokerage.
Uh-huh.
So he's probably dual license. In PA, there's no offer form. You use the entire contract of sale for every single offer
I
that you
see.
make.
Okay, right.
And
Okay.
there's nothing wrong with doing that in Jersey. That's just what he did here. He didn't do a
I
proposal
see.
to purchase. He just had them fill out and sign the contract of sale. So now if Collins people want to take this offer, all they've got to do is sign, and it's an attorney review the next day.
I see. Okay, gotcha. But in New Jersey, we should do the offer form. We can do a contract, but it's easier to do the offer form initially.
Oh man, there's an argument either way.
Uh-huh.
The proposal is definitely easier and faster for you to get the offer out. And no offense to Colin or to any agent, it's less likely that an agent's going to miss something if you use a proposal, because it's a one page and we
Yeah.
can't rely on somebody to go through a 14-page contract. If you have your buyer sign the contract, it's likely that the listing agent is going to miss a couple of your terms that are in the contract because they didn't thoroughly review it and look at all your terms. So if this guy would have at least put the bullet points in the email, it would have been helpful.
Yeah.
You can do either. If you have a buyer that's very skittish and you don't believe, and you think that they're going to have you make an offer and it's going to get accepted, and then they're going to say, oh, I have cold feet, I want to back out. A good way to try and get in their head is to have them complete the contract, fill the contract out and have them sign it. It gives them a sense of like, oh crap, this is real.
Okay.
So it becomes a good educational moment for them. So that way, if they don't get this one, they're ready for the next one. They're not hit with a bus when they get this agreement in front of them.
I did use your thing with my first time buyers to like show them the contract ahead of time and just give it to them. And they were like, oh, this is so great. Cause I'm like, it's kind of complicated. And just so you can look at it, we're not at that level yet. And they were all excited to get it. So.
100%. That's
It's a good
awesome.
idea.
I'm glad you did that. Yep. So I just put a video up on the channel. Like and subscribe, turn notifications on. But seriously, I put a video on that channel on how to go into DocuSign and just get the blank forms, or just type on blank forms. So like what Dawn said, she printed out the sales contract, a blank version, I'm guessing, and brought it with her to her first showing or her consult with the buyer so they could have a blank copy of it. I highly recommend you do that. And I do not expect them to read it at all. But when it's time to make an offer and sign contracts, at least I can say, I gave you that. Or every time we're meeting, I'm like, listen, I just want to encourage you to just look over that document that I sent you. I marked it up with the important parts or whatever. So you can print. I put a video on my YouTube to show you how to go into DocuSign and just get those blank forms to print and take with you on showings or whatever you need them for, or email or whatever. And I think that it's a good thing to do that. I always have that in there as a part of my buyer, packet.
Okay.
Unless the buyer's been through it 8 times and they don't, but a first time buyer or something like that, it's good to just give them. Nobody knows. We do this every day and we see the same documents, so we get kind of numb or callous to it. And you're just like, it's the standard contract. People don't realize that. People get that in front of them and they're like, wow, they typed all this up for us.
Okay.
So it's good to be like, it's a standard document and it's fill in the blanks. Like, I'm not that smart. I couldn't type that 14-page thing up for you.
Can I ask you a quick stupid question about the?
Nope.
No questions are stupid. So the listing agreement form, there's part for them to sign something about some offices have a VOW or video office.
I saw you post that
I don't know,
in,
do we have that? I don't know what it is, so
I don't think
wanna-
so, and
I don't want to
clearly
explain
nobody
a
knew.
form to somebody when I don't even understand it myself. So just
Okay,
say,
that's
we
a fair point, but I'd need to look at the listing agreement to see even
Okay.
what that VOW thing says. I Googled it when I saw your Facebook
Yeah.
post and I was like, I don't know what this
yeah,
is.
because it's like it's in our listing form.
It's in the Bright MLS listing form.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
So
get
it's
it.
not, so to look at it like that, it's not
Yeah.
our listing form, it's what the MLS requires.
I see. Okay, all right.
My guess is we do it. Keller Williams does what every other brokerage
Okay.
does, you know?
Okay.
So if you, I don't remember seeing most of you at the sales meeting. One thing I wanted to touch on real quick is out of our commissions, we generally charge that $100 on our listing, right? And that's to pay for realtor.com. So
Okay.
when we put a listing up, when we put a listing on realtor.com and a buyer goes to realtor.com and sees that listing, it's you're on there. You don't have to do anything or pay any extra money. It's an agreement with the office. All that happens on all of our listings. You are on there and that's who they would contact, right? That price has gone up. That price the office pays $60,000 a year to have that privilege, and they're trying to raise the price to $220,000 for,
Oh,
yeah. Yep. So the office said, we're not going to do it anymore because it would be like $500 a listing based on the amount of volume, you know, that we do. And that's with us doing a ton of listings. So what they're saying is essentially realtor.com doesn't want us to do it. They don't want us to renew. They're expecting us to cancel. They want us to be able to sell those spaces to other people, other agents or whatever. What that means is your listings, of course, will all still go to realtor.com, but it'll be more like Zillow. If you go on your listing on Zillow right now, Dawn, if I went to your listing and I reached out to you, I might not get you. I might just get somebody that is like a random person.
mhm.
So that's how it's going to be with realtor.com now.
Okay. So other agents might get, it's whatever
Whoever's
rate
paying the
they
most for
have,
that spot.
whoever's paying the most money. I get it.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So the good thing is though, apparently, so Joe is inviting everybody to go to the ALC meeting on this coming Thursday. Of course, I'm going to be away. Everything that's determined in our office, if you didn't already know that, this is determined by the people that are on the ALC, like Kathy Shapiro, Sam Lepore, I think Simmett's on it, a couple other agents, Connor's on it. So those decisions, they vote on the decisions. So I think that that's cool because they're agents in this office and they pay, you know, have the same repercussions from the decisions that they make as we do. So they're going to stop doing the realtor.com thing, but I believe they're going to try and use the money that we were paying to do something else for us, whether that be, I have no idea. Whether that be photography or I don't know what they're going to do for listings or something like that. So it might be worth your time to just go and sit in on an ALC meeting just to understand what they're all about and how that works. And
When is it? Thursday?
Thursday, I don't know what time. I think it's in the calendar here.
Okay.
It's 11:30 at the office, but I do believe you need to let them know that you're going. You can't just show up and sit there.
Okay.
So, you know, just something to keep in mind.
When will you be back from your vacation?
Okay, so so quickly, I go away tomorrow and I come back, and that was my father-in-law who just dropped the dog off. They're coming with us. So we are going away tomorrow to the 25th. Accessible the whole time. I texted everybody. I'll probably like send out that mass text a couple more times, like just a reminder, you know, I'm here. And please, if I don't get back to you, hit that exclamation button on the text or just text me again. You know, if it can wait, I'm obviously going to do my best. I feel like I try hard to get back to you now, and it shouldn't be much different, but we'll see how it goes. So I don't think I'm going to do any classes or anything while I'm away.
No.
So that's it though. For 2.5 years, you got me. I can't go away again. So, other stuff, I don't really have much else. One thing I wanted to talk about, like well, how about any other questions or anybody want to dive into anything? Everybody?
Me again, I got one for you.
Yep.
Closing cost estimates. When I first showed this house
Okay.
to my
Mhm.
buyer, I filled out a rough closing cost estimate through Bright, you know, went through that. handed it to them. God knows what they've done with it now. You know, they've probably used it for something. Who is responsible for doing the final closing cost estimate? How does that
Lender.
work?
Lender. The lender and the title company communicate and they do it. You're out of it completely.
All right, good.
If you didn't see it though, I do have a video on my YouTube that I go through filling out a buyer's estimate.
You do? Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, so you
I-
can watch my video and I show, because I actually used an Alta from a closing and I put those costs in Bright in the
I
closing
think I
cost
did
estimate.
see that, but I'll review it.
So
I
yeah,
just
you're
wondered-
welcome to use that. I
And
have
if-
my buyers sign that. Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said it was for
Any-
buyers?
Yeah.
I have both. There's a seller
Buyer,
net sheet
seller?
and there's a buyer closing cost estimate. You can do
Okay.
both of them right from Bright.
That's
Or
what I
you have a
did
video.
initially. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I do have a video. Yeah, if you did it initially. Now, at this point, since you're under contract, the buyer should be able to get those numbers from the lender. The lenders that I recommend, give them that closing cost estimate prior to part of their pre-approval process.
Mhm.
So I know that my buyer's not going to come back to me later and be like, I didn't know there was 7,000 in closing costs. But if I don't trust the lender or don't know the lender, then I'm going to make sure that I talk to them about that and have them sign off on that closing cost estimate from Bright.
I'll talk to her because she's a little flaky, my buyer. Nice.
That's understandable. We deal with a lot of that, right?
Okay, good. That was good to know. Thanks.
Yep.
Is there a video, or there must be a video somewhere, like how to put a listing together? Like when you're really ready to list and you're going to put it on Bright, or the whole actual paperwork, the process, there must be a video
That's
about that.
tough. It's probably not, Colin. Is it as complicated as it seems?
Absolutely not.
So it's just right on Bright, you just kind of walk through it and it just,
I intend to
Yes.
walk through it with you, Dawn, when you list this place in
Okay.
Pennsauken. And for your first listing especially, I'd love to screen share and make sure that all you're good on everything for that, because that's too much for me to just be like, here's a YouTube video for it.
yeah, okay,
That I want to still do that. I still want to have it so that just in case,
yeah.
there's
Okay.
a quick question or whatever, but
All right. Or I'll just come to the office when you're there, do it in person.
perfect. Yes.
Not
I'm
only is it
definitely
easy
for
too,
that.
Dawn, but it kind of, it helps with like things that you might not know because it generates a lot of information. And I had my listing up for like a week before I published it, and I just would go in there and kind of get my bearings again. So yeah, they make it pretty simple.
All right, so you can do it ahead of time and have it all ready and then just push send at the end.
Yes,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Okay, hey, congratulations.
Exactly, yeah.
I saw your open house on Zillow this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm somewhat nervous and I'm somewhat excited because we have it scheduled for 12 to 2, but the responses I'm getting, because it's owner occupied, there's been a lot of showings that couldn't be approved. So I feel like tomorrow might be like the next iPhone launch.
Yeah.
So we'll
Yeah, I
see. It
was
might
just
be a
gonna
line
say,
out the door.
You might want to tell your sellers to be gone until like 3:30.
I did. I was like, it says 12 to 2, but I don't want to see you guys back till 4.
Okay, good.
Good. That's
Awesome.
exciting.
Yeah, just remember, you got get a client out of it.
Yeah, for real.
I don't want to, I mean, because what happens is you're so focused on selling this listing. That's all your focus and attention is on, just like, I want to sell this listing, but you're going to have a lot of unrepresented buyers that come there that could potentially be good people for you. So if somebody wants to make an offer, they will find a way to make the offer.
Awesome. Good.
Jim, when you return, I'll probably be ready to list my renovation. So probably in a week to 10 days.
Just let me know. Yes,
Come
we can Zoom. If something comes up, please let me know and we can Zoom while I'm away.
Yeah, we'll
I
do it
have
afterwards. Enjoy
Wi-Fi
your
and stuff. If
vacation.
you need, I'm just putting it
Yeah.
out there. All right. You can't take a vacation. So what happens in this business is you go to take a vacation and you get every client that you've ever met. They all call the day you're leaving. It's when everything, I fully expect at the airport tomorrow, there to be some huge blow up on a listing of mine. That's just what happens. So there's nothing you could do about it.
So do you have like,
DocuSign,
do you have like a relationship? I mean, you have so many good relationships anyway, but do you have like a backup person? Like if there's some massive emergency that physically needs help, you have somebody that's going to like kind of cover you or help you out while you're away?
I mean, you can absolutely reach out to Pat if you need to.
No, I mean you, like for you, when you go away, you have somebody like, relationship with
There's
someone that
12
backs you
people in
up?
this, 12 people in this Zoom right now, so I'll just go through the list.
Oh, like we're gonna, all right, well, back.
Yeah, but that is a good point, though. Yeah, if you do, I need to say that in a text. You can go to Pat if you have an emergency, but I almost don't want to put it out there because if I am not going to be in my phone for long enough that there's an emergency, I'm going to call Skylar and tell her to reach out to everybody and let them know to contact Pat if you have an emergency. Like, you know what I mean? I don't
Right.
want you to go to Pat for something just because.
Okay.
Not whatever. Not that I care, but that's really it. I mean, the only other thing I wanted to just say, closing thoughts, if you call it, lead gen mindset. So much of this, if you haven't learned it by now, is just mindset, right? It's just doing it and learning as you go. Figure out what your vision is. Figure out how you're going to separate yourself from your competition. And doesn't have to be like some crazy, weird, off the rails thing. Okay. It could be as simple as the thing that I've been saying, like stop and talk to people at the dumpsters and ask about their rehabs that are coming up. I bet you if you stopped at Maria's rehab, she talked to you about her listing, right? And how many agents have reached out to you from your listing without there being a sign there, just with the dumpster?
Well, actually, I haven't put my sign up yet.
There's no sign there, right? But there's a dumpster
Yeah.
in the driveway and you're clearly doing a rehab, right?
There is. Well, the neighbors are all talking.
The neighbors are
That's it.
talking, which is
Yeah.
awesome. But
Right.
how many people stopped, got one of your contractors and said, hey, can I get in touch with like the owner of this or the agent that's going to be selling this place? Has that happened at all?
Not yet. Yeah, we were there 2 weeks. So yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Oh,
Not-
2
not
weeks
that
it's
I know.
been. Okay.
Just 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've done other rehabs and stuff, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've had people
And
stop.
any,
Oh, yeah.
you have had agents
Well, yeah,
frequently?
prior, but not they at the time. I obviously wasn't licensed. So
Yeah. The reason I'm asking is because I say over and over that that's a really good way to get introduced to agents and have an idea of what's coming up on the market before it hits.
right.
That's all. So if I'm, when we're talking about separating yourself, not a lot of agents are doing that. And it's something that you should do. If you're on a way to a showing and there's a dumpster in the driveway and there's guys working on it, just stop and ask them for the number of whoever owns it or is going to be selling it, because you might have somebody who wants to buy it. So nothing wrong with doing that. It's such a great idea. I used to keep a list in my I used to keep a spreadsheet with a whole bunch of properties that are all because of that. And then I used to do open houses on these guys' rehabs because that's how I met them. Because I go and see this one and that one and it'd be like the same person. And then I'll be like, oh, wow. And now when you're at an open house, you can say, but I know it's really tough out there. I have a list of properties that are going to be listed over the next 3 months that are all being rehabbed right now. None of them are in the MLS at all.
Right. Now, curious, because I saw that other one come up last week about like sort of an exclusive within the office kind of thing. What's up with that?
You can have an exclusive listing agency agreement signed. Rachel on here now. This is good for you to hear. Are you listening, Rachel? Are you like actually here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So what you can have signed in the future, it's not always a great idea. Sometimes it works out well, is an exclusive agency agreement, which is a listing agreement that basically gives you the right to market the listing within the market center, within your brokerage, but does not give you the right to market it or sell it to some other agency. So you've seen a couple people that have been posting about that in our Facebook group there, like Amber had an exclusive agency agreement signed with, XYZ. You can do that with a seller if it makes sense. If they're not like, I just want to get it on the market and sell it, if they want to limit showings or something like that, or they don't want the craziness, it's possible to do that.
So
I
it's
don't think,
really for
I
the-
just want to be clear, I don't think that would have worked out well with Barbara, Rachel. That's not why I'm saying
Oh my
it, but
God, no.
it's something to keep in mind just for when you're out there talking to people. If they're a little hesitant or they want to limit it a little bit more, just see what's going to happen. You can have them sign in this exclusive agency.
That's
When you go,
actually,
when you go in Bright and you put the listing through, one of the first questions it asks you, it's a required item. What type of agreement is it? Exclusive right or exclusive agency? Just click the exclusive agency and continue on. So if anybody gets to that point, you want to have that discussion again, just let me know. But that's all.
Okay.
So that's it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just left someone's house, but I did. So I normally I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to drop off a blank contract. I accidentally dropped off a filled-in contract. Do you think that'll make a big deal or not really?
No, you accidentally dropped off a listing agreement, you mean? That's signed.
Yeah, like it had everything on there except like the dates, of course, because I was talking to her like, yeah, we'll fill out the dates together later, and she talked to me about
Oh, it
how
was for this person?
for this person, like it has their name
No,
and
that's
address
fine.
on it.
I thought you
Oh,
meant
okay, I'm
you
about to
filled
say.
out, you dropped off a listing agreement that was filled out for somebody else.
Oh
Just
no,
like-
no, I was just
No,
like,
that's fine.
oh snap.
So
because
just
I
like
didn't think about it.
just like we talked about, like, I don't know if you were listening, Rachel, we talked about bringing the New Jersey state contract to your buyer appointments, like when you meet your buyer.
Yeah, the agency agreement.
No, I'm talking about like the contract of sale. Print out a blank contract
Okay.
of sale, bring it to
Okay.
your first appointment with your buyer and give it to them so that they can review it later. So that when you have a contract later that they need to sign, they're not bombarded, like they're not overwhelmed by it.
Okay, cool.
So I'm
I
saying
gave
go
her
into that.
CIS too.
Yeah, and that's great. But on the other side of the coin, this is exactly what Rachel's doing now is when you have a potential listing, if the person's like not ready to list or they're not familiar with you, there's nothing wrong with printing out a blank listing agreement and leaving that with the seller and say, when you're ready, this is what you're going to sign. I don't want there to be any surprises, being upfront with you. Here's the standard listing agreement. We'll just fill in the blanks and the dates when we're ready to get on the market.
I
So
think she
same-
appreciates that more too because she told me that she's gonna give me her sister who's thinking of selling too. So I think that was like a good thing I did because it's like nurturing the listing rather than pushing it.
Exactly. So yeah, sometimes that's necessary. So yeah, all I was saying was you've all seen that marked up agreement of sale that I have. Okay, well, I can't get to it. You can, it sucks because I ended up changing this for when you can't see this, but my faces, all of our faces were in the way there. Marked up NJ agreement of sale. If you remember when I taught the contracts class, I marked up the New Jersey agreement of sale. I highlighted stuff so you can read, I put notes on here.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this for you because I think it's worth your time to do this. Take a contract, even if you have to print it out and highlight like section 16 for inspections and be like, when you have your first buyer consult, you can print this out. I used to do it all the time, or I'd email it to them and say, here's the standard contract of sale. When we're ready to make an offer and we get an accepted offer, you're going to need to sign this document. It's standard. It's used for thousands of deals to close every week in New Jersey, but I know it's overwhelming. So I took the time to highlight some important areas, and obviously I highlighted a lot on here because this was for the class that I taught on it, but you can highlight the inspection period and you can highlight, the closing date and the initial deposit and leave it with your buyer so that they can ask you some questions. I find that it's very helpful to do that. And it creates a level of professionalism that, not a lot of agents are doing that, and there's nothing wrong with it. So that's all. Or you can just print out the totally blank one and give that to them as well. Or you can do nothing, the world is yours. But that's it. If there's nothing else, I'm going to, Brittany and we need to talk, and Colin, so.
Okay.
Jim, I just want to share something really funny real
Yeah,
quick.
sure.
So I bought something off of Facebook Marketplace 2 weeks ago. I handed the girl my card, talk about lead generation.
Yes, that's such a
Literally, as
great
I'm
lead gen
talking to
source.
you, she's telling me, because she told me then she's looking at listing her home in Burlington. She's asked me
Awesome.
right now to meet her next week to do the listing. So I will be in touch.
Oh, that's amazing. See,
Nice.
the Facebook Marketplace is,
Right.
my wife is sometimes, she's like, why are you selling that on there? I'm like, so I can meet some stranger. That's why. If you want to meet a stranger, I'm like, it's for business, relax. But seriously, that and now that COVID restrictions are really loosening up, I encourage everybody in here, if you've got a house where you can do it, host a barbecue this summer. Call Lisa Kelly, call YHT, call Frank, or call Ryan Goldberg, get somebody to sponsor something and and make it look like I'm just doing a barbecue for friends and family, but like make the connection there on, it's, real estate. I'm in real estate. Don't forget it. So, and I'm not saying that Ryan or Lisa has to be there or has to sponsor anything. Every year I do a holiday party and a summer party. I had always done it up until COVID started. And it was best lead generating source that I did. Would have so many people come in every single year. I'd get a few people or spouses or friends that would come in that would pull me aside and be like, I meant to talk to you. That I know would not have texted me or thought of me if it wasn't for doing that. So it pays for itself. It's a great time. It's a great thing to do. So something to keep in mind. That, and now happy hours are lead gen events now. So I'm glad to be back to doing that kind of stuff. So hopefully that will be helpful. As a new agent, I found that was a really good use of my time, believe it or not, hanging out with friends, going out to eat, going out to get drinks, whatever. Everybody talks about real estate when it's like, one of the 3 things you talk about when you go out, real estate, relationships, and other life stuff. I don't know. So.
All right. Have a great vacation.
All right. I'll text you guys. Yep. I'll talk to you soon. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay, thank you. Bye.